I'm just tweeting everything out. Hey, Munchie, how you doing? I made one of these. What? I am slow tonight. It's been a long day. I actually only caught the closing panel. It was happening as I woke up, and you kept mentioning missing the stream. Yeah, I was on the NerdSync panel, and I had worked it out according to my schedule at work so that I would be home in time to do it. But dun 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 dun. As soon as I got there, they asked me if I could stay late. And I told them no, I couldn't, but they still made me stick to my original schedule rather than the one that I had worked out with them ahead of time. It was just a misunderstanding, but still, I missed the NerdSync stream, so they allowed me to be in the final stream, which was pretty cool of them. As far as I'm concerned, just being invited to any of the panels is an honor, for someone like me. I am happy to have been a part of it, to have gotten to work on the website, to have been invited to the panels, to have gotten to be the first one to donate, which was pretty cool, even if it was just $4. As far as I know, if anybody has missed out, you can still donate tonight. Hello, Mr. What the Fluff. Came back just in time. Late night stream. It's going to take me a minute to get used to this PlayStation controller, which is a weird thing to say when you're playing Spyro. Ooh, yeah. How are you tonight, Mr. What the Fluff? Whoa. Let me see where I am. Treetops. Ooh, I do not like that one. I don't want to do that right now. So these are really hard. I've beat this one. I just need to go back and finish 100 completing it. Let's start the second game and see how that goes. Because I've never played Ripto's Rage. Can you guys hear me okay? The mic stand is broke, but I've sort of got it rigged up with a couple of the clamps that go to my backdrop stuff.
Is this rain ever gonna stop? I've forgotten what the sun looks like. We should go out Vacation. Somewhere warm. Somewhere sunny. Dragon Shores, yeah.
Came back from walking. Nisha, is Nisha puppy dog, I'm guessing?
How about it, Sparks? You up for a vacation?
That's a stupid question. Nobody walks a cat.
Last one there's a Nork.
Excellent. Sound is good. All right. I went back and watched last night's Tetris stream, and the music was a little overwhelming. What's really weird about this microphone cable is that if I live stream with it, it sounds okay. But if I try to record with it for a video, it sounds like garbage. And I really don't get why. It's got a buzz in it that I can definitely see, like in the spectrograph. But for whatever reason, when I live stream, you can't hear it. I don't know.
They sound much more dangerous than Ripto.
That's exactly the point. A dragon is our only chance of stopping Ripto, and you know it.
It's working.
It's working.
I've got a dragon. Huh? Whoa.
What's up with you, Mr. Puppy Dog? Or is that a mouse?
For us, a mob of lizards just showed up and started stealing all of our gems. Can you stop them?
Oh no, not the gems. Whoa, what the heck? I love these games. They're really simple and easy, but man, are they fun. For anyone that missed the whole charity drive, donations are still open, and I have replaced all of my Patreon and subscription links and whatnot in the bottom with the At Home Comic Con website and the Tiltify donation link. So if you feel inclined to do so, then feel free, but you know, if not, enjoy the game. And now that you mentioned it, yeah, there is like a, there's a sound in the background, and I can't get rid of it. It's just a bad cable. I need to order a replacement. So what I'm doing right now for the next video is I've got a cable that's just XLR to XLR, and I'm going to use that, but I have to put that into like a old-fashioned 4-track recorder rather than the computer. But it's probably going to sound a lot better, even if it is a lot of trouble. My ex was into Spyro, but hated Crash Bandicoot. I like Crash Bandicoot too. It definitely wasn't there in the stream. Well, in the stream, I kept turning my microphone off when I wasn't talking. So that might have had something to do with it, because the first thing that happened was I got into the stream and asked him how the mic was, and Matt Draper was like, you know, there's a buzz in the microphone, and I knew I couldn't fix it, so I just like turned it off. And I didn't turn it on unless I was going to speak. Yeah, and I think it's got some denoising built into it. Denoising that apparently is better than my ability to denoise, which is kind of sad. You run from me.
Hi, Spyro.
Hi,
I'm a friend of
Spyro.
Laura's, and she asked me to help you out. Whenever you find me, I'll remember your progress. Like this. That zap means that if you get into trouble,
I tell you what, though,
return me.
the audio in the stream, I went back and listened to it because while I was in the in the final panel, I was scared to death the whole time that my microphone sounded terrible, that I wasn't loud enough, and that there was a buzz in the thing, and so I went back to listen to it just to see, and it was fine. So I swear to God, I just about streamed the recording of my next video in the same manner, and see how the audio comes out. I bet it would sound better than me going into Adobe Audition and clicking around without knowing what I'm doing. You know, like I can go in there and use the noise reduction tool, but for whatever reason, it always ruins my audio. I don't know if I do it too much or if I take bad samples, or like I don't know what the deal is, but I know that I used to get better audio before I replaced this cable. I know that much. So, like you can listen to my last video, the Into the Omniverse Marvel. The reason why I haven't done part 2 is because the audio in part 1 was just terrible, and I want to re-record that one. And also, it was my first video back after a pretty long hiatus, and so I'd really like to maybe tighten it up a bit because I feel like it's like a bit rambly, if that makes sense. Like maybe I didn't organize my thoughts very well in that video. So that's the plan for this upcoming week. I'm going to rewrite and re-record Into the Omniverse Marvel Part 1. And then I'm going to do Part 2. And then I've got an older Thor video from way back when I first started the channel that I'd like to redo.
Thank you, Mr. Dragon. Spyro, was it? You can now use the bridge whenever you want, free of charge. I hope we meet again.
Shut up, money bags. Speedrunners can get past this bridge without paying this idiot. It's pretty cool. Hopefully my guidebook keeps track of how many I really have. Yep, 191 out of 400. Audio's always been my weak spot. You know, like I can throw images in and I can like animate them pretty good. I mean, I'm not the best in the world, but I can make it look decent. But getting really good audio in my videos has always been a struggle for me for whatever reason, you know, and I guess it's because I just don't have the money to put toward a really nice microphone. This microphone that I use most of the time is from like the 1990s. My uncle gave it to me. I bought back when I had the money and I started this channel. I bought 2 Rode microphones. They were lapel mics, and they were about $100 a piece, and they had really good sound quality because Rode, they really know how to make a microphone. But the problem with the lapel mics is that if you're really loud like I am, it's really easy to like bust the microphone. So I loaned one of them to a friend of mine because I wanted him to do some podcast with me, which he never did do, Mark. And the other one, after I recorded 2 or 3 videos, screamed into it once or twice, and all of a sudden it had terrible sound. So, but that's my fault. I need to go get that other Rode mic back from him, and maybe now, knowing what I know now, maybe I can keep from busting it. That would be nice. This is a pretty decent microphone, but the problem is that you have to boost the gain to make it loud enough, and that makes the noise boosted too. So it's just designed for something different. This microphone is for like instruments, and that's the problem, But we'll get it one of these days. What do you say, Pencil? Been a while. How you doing? Nope, you ain't hitting me with no hammer. Where's this go? Whee! Alright, I'm sure it wants me to fly to somewhere from up here. Nope, there's... What the heck? What is this, little mouse?
Great! The Superfly power-up is active, and you can restart our gem lamps. Flame all the lamps quickly, and the big gem lamp will light. The power-up will give you enough magic to fly for a short time.
Walk through the pyramids to trigger the Superfly power-up. Light the gem lamps with your flame. Light all the lamps quickly. I see. I gotta fly up there to light it. Okay. Right? It would seem. See? Yeah. So where do I go up at? That one seems to be lit up, doesn't it? Do I just... Let's see. How do I get up there? Right here, right? Okay, I see what it wants me to do. Oh, that was sad. I'm doing really well. Oh, you're talking to Pencil, aren't you? I am happy to have you guys on this live stream. I promised everybody when I missed the NerdSync panel that I would do a late night panel, or a late night stream after all the panels were over. And I did end up getting on another panel, the final panel, but I figured, what the heck, we'll do the stream anyway. No, I needed to be up there. Why, thank you, Mr. What the Fluff. I need to be... I'm going in the wrong direction. Let's go back the other way. Do. How do I get up there and light that one? Well, I'm not staying home much because I guess I am essential right now. Oh, they only stay lit for a little while. And I can't get up there to it. Okay. I'll figure this out in a minute. Let's go back to getting gems and killing things for a while.
wizards. Please take this talisman of
Been
power
doing
as a sign of
Dungeons
our
and Dragons
gratitude.
stuff. Oh my god. Drake said in the stream that he had to make a Dungeons and Dragons character for a game. And I've got a game tomorrow that I need to make a character for.
Take you to Summer Forest, one of the home worlds of Avalar.
I guess that's how we roll, huh? This magic portal next to me will take you to Summer Forest. Yeah, it's just like the last game. This is the outer world. And then the portals will take you to other places. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Already been in here. That's where I paid money bags, right? What is Dungeons and Dragons? Surely you jest. It is a tabletop RPG. And according to all the moms in the 90s, it is the devil. Whoa, hey. That looks like you could headbutt it, doesn't it? But you can't. At least not yet. It's your first time being a dungeon master? You'll get it. I guess my biggest tip for being a dungeon master is this. Don't be afraid to, rearrange things. Let's say that, you make a dungeon. Maybe it's a tower or a cave or something. And it's in one part of your map. And everybody wants to go in the wrong direction. Don't try to control what they do. But what you can do is you can let them go wherever they're going and then reuse that floor plan for, something else when they get there. So let's say that you've got a castle in the woods and instead they go in the opposite direction, toward a swamp. Maybe you can put some ruins in that swamp and reuse the, reuse the floor plan. Because you don't want them to feel like they have to go along with exactly what you have planned. You want it to feel like you want them to feel like it was sort of their choice. Even though they're definitely gonna end up at a dungeon you built for them, right? Because when a dungeon master tries to control exactly where you go and what direction you go in, that's really unpleasant sometimes. I really want to try out D&D, Pencil says, but it isn't too popular here, and I don't have friends to do it with. Now, podcast and live show works for me for now. Yeah, here's the thing, is that I never did really get to play a lot of Dungeons & Dragons in person either. I had one cousin that enjoys that. I think the sound went out in my headphones. Or at least the sound is back, but that's weird. The speech didn't work. I had to stick for a while to playing over the internet with them because they're so far away. This will be the first in-person game I've got to play in many, 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 many years. So sometimes it's hard to get put together. But if you can't find a group, then sign up for what's the name of the website? Hang on just a second. What is the name of that site? I know where to find it. Just a sec. I'll scroll up till I find it here. I've got it. Come on. I haven't actually used this exact one, but I do know some friends that use it. I got invited to sit in on one of their games recently. Da-da. Yeah, here it is. Roll20.net. Try that. See if you can get some people together over the internet to play. Because it is the next best thing. Now, back when I played over the internet with people, it was more like pointing your webcam at your dice and rolling it, right? But, you know, this is different. Sort of like there's a map and it can be sort of like playing a board game. Yeah, it's pretty complicated, Mungie, but it's fun, you know. Like imagine writing a comic book on the fly, and this is in reference to the earlier stream, right? But the way I describe Dungeons and Dragons is like imagine that you're writing a story or a comic book on the fly, and you're mixing that with a board game, you know. I think that kind of describes it. Maybe not well, but it's really difficult to describe well. No problemo. I love Dungeons and Dragons. I'm all for anything that's gonna get more people to give it a try. Even if you play something else like Pathfinder, just tabletop RPGs in general, I think are great. Start retrieving the talismans from each of the worlds you visit. But no, I am really sorry, guys, for missing the Nerd Sync panel. I really am. It was really cool of Scott and Owen and Matt Draper and Comic Direct to put me on one of the panels. You know, my channel is small, and I wasn't even going to try to get on one of the panels. You know, I was content to hang out in the chat. You know, they made a Discord for all the creators that were in it. I was content to hang out there and help other people, like, you know, set up the website and donate a little money and just sort of be there in case they needed anything. And by God, they put me on a panel anyway, and I really hated to miss it. But there was nobody there to relieve me, nobody there to take over the job. And, you know, I was mad about it. I started to just leave and go do the panel anyway because, like, a schedule, you know what I mean? I checked my schedule before I agreed to the panel, so I had worked it out, but they changed it. But I need the job, you know. I mean, that's the bottom line. I need that money. So, oh well. But it is what it is. I got to do the final panel, and the final panel was a lot of fun. And it's a real wide variety of people. What character's origin were you going to talk about? Also, you weren't even the smallest channel. No, I wasn't the smallest. You know what I mean? But I guess I didn't know that until I was told that I wasn't the smallest. I know Michaela is smaller than me, but you know, I don't really
Hi,
like.
Spyro.
I watch
You look like
Michaela's
you're pretty
videos
agile.
because she's
Try
awesome.
putting it to a test. See if you
But
can
I
make
find
this
that I don't
first step.
often check
The
to
jump
see
button
how
and
many
hold it down to get
subscribers
more
a
hang
channel
time.
has. I just either like the channel or I don't. You know, I don't really care how many people like it. Um, I know how many subscribers some of them
Okay,
have
not
because
bad.
I
Now to
celebrate
make
their
this next jump, you'll
milestones.
have to
You
glide.
know,
Press
they
the
say
jump
something
button,
like,
then
"Oh,
press
we're about
jump
to hit
again at the top
50,000
of your
subscribers," and I'm like, "Oh, that's great." You know, everybody go subscribe to this guy or
Nice
that
job. Now,
guy. But I was never one to judge a channel by how many it has. You know what I mean? Because I know that my channel is small and I want people to like it. So, you know, treat other people how you want to be treated, I guess. That's what I'm getting at. How much money you want now, Mr. Moneybags?
Sorry, Spyro. I'd love to teach you how to swim underwater, but not as much as I'd love to take your treasure.
Pencil missed the stream too. That does make me feel a little better. 500 gems. What a ripoff. I've actually said this many, many times before, but I feel like the comic book community on YouTube is one of, if not the best community that YouTube has because there's so little drama. There's so little problems. Everybody tries to get along. Everybody tries to work together. You know. And it's such an easy place to fit into. And I wouldn't have it any other way. That's what I would want it to be, you know. If it were under my control, that's what I would make it, you know. Mungie says, yeah, I never really check subscribers. Most of the subscribed channels, like, say, 5 Minutes Craft, are just awful. I only check subscribers to know how popular someone is. Yeah, and if I do find myself checking subscribers, it's usually under the context of saying something like, "Oh, this person's underrated," you know. You know, like Scott Nicewonder. Like, how does Scott Nicewonder not have 5 million subscribers? You know what I mean? It's a damn shame that he's not huge. It's a damn shame that Benny doesn't have 5 or 10 million, but he'll get there. Benny's a hard worker, man. Pencil says, I do like a smaller channel better sometimes. The community is closer, and you'd be able to grow alongside the channel you like. To me, is a really good feeling. Yeah, Pencil. Like, for example, I got into NerdSync back in, I think, 2013. I was there when he celebrated 50,000 subscribers. So, you know, I feel like I've been a part of that community since the beginning. I wonder why the sound is only not working on the cutscenes. That is so weird. Pencil says, especially as a newcomer to a comic world, it is a more welcoming place. Absolutely. I didn't get into comics until I was an adult. You know, I didn't get into comics until, Lord, you know, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I know that I still felt like I was new to comics when I found NerdSync. You know, I still kind of feel like I'm new to comics now. And that's okay, you know. It's okay if you're only into comic book movies. I don't care, you know. Like I don't like the concept of a real nerd. You know what I mean? I don't like the concept of a real fan. I think it's exclusionary. And I just don't care for that sort of attitude, like the attitude that people need to be excluded because they're not good enough. I really dislike that. Like, it's gatekeeping is what it is. Mungie says, not to say all big channels are bad. No, there are lots of great big channels that really deserve their success. Yeah, but subscriber count is not an indication of quality. No, what it is it's an indication of your ability to play by the rules that YouTube has laid down at any given moment, right? So right now, that's going to be consistency and watch time. How often do you put out videos, and how many hours of those videos do people watch? So now my problem is that, I don't make a living off of YouTube. I make about $50 or $60 a month on Patreon, and so I have to find other work, and sometimes that, but basically what's happened over the last year is that just over a year ago my dad died, and that hit me pretty hard. And then my brother got pneumonia, and they had to put like a tube in his lung and drain that out, and I had to take him like to the doctor every single day, and like it's just been a rough year. And I'm not complaining. I'm happy. My brother's okay. He's healthy again. I miss my dad, but that kind of is what it is. But it's really difficult to stay on track when you've got to deal with all of that, plus make a living and keep the lights on. And so, I can't make videos like I want to, and then when I have time to make videos, it's like I'm almost discouraged, if that makes sense. And then, like, on top of all of that, I have had this ordeal trying to get a decent microphone setup going, Plus I got, I'm a single dad, so like the whole consistency thing, I'm really bad at that. And when you add on to all of that I've got the personality of a procrastinator, it makes it really difficult. But I am ready to get back on that horse and try again, you guys. Because one way or another, I'm going to make this channel work. One way or another, I'm going to make it work. I think I need like a partner. Somebody that I feel like I'm responsible for getting my part of the work done, because it seems that when I'm doing something for me, I can put it off and put it off and put it off. But if I'm doing something for somebody else, I feel obligated to get it done, So, yeah, Pencil can relate. By the way, the sound isn't working for us either. Maybe it's a game setting. Is the sound in... Because I can hear the sound now. It's quiet. I've got it turned down, but I can hear it. Let me turn it up a little bit and see if you guys can hear it. Because to me, it's only the cutscenes. Can you guys hear that? It's very soft background music and sound effects. Mungie says, my older brother got pneumonia recently. He's living with our parents. Mom wasn't letting him go to his college before, but after the whole corona news came out in January, he hasn't been allowed. Yeah, my brother could only go straight to the hospital and straight back. And when they put that drainage tube in your lung, they usually keep you in the hospital. But they sent him home with the tube in just because they didn't want him around the coronavirus, Be here to support you every step of the way. Thank you, guys. That means a lot to me. I meant specifically the cutscenes. Okay, good. Yeah, maybe it's some kind of game setting. I feel like they were working when we first started the stream. So it may just be my sound card. People don't build computers with sound cards anymore. I know that when I built this computer. I guess maybe I'm old, so I bought a sound card. I might have been better off to stick with the onboard audio, but the reason I don't take it out is because one, like I paid $300 for it, and two, I feel like the extra inputs are worth it, right? There's a pod where I can hook up 2 sets of headphones and 2 microphones at the same time. So I leave it hooked up, but it gives me some trouble, especially sometimes in a game. It will kick the sound off, and I'll have to restart the computer to get the sound to come back on. So that's probably a driver issue. But I don't know why it would be just the cutscenes, you know. Maybe there's some form of video that the driver that decodes them failed or something. Who knows? I think we'll get along without them. Truth is, this stream's not really going to be very long. I've got to get in the bed. It's past midnight here, but I said I would do it, you know, so I felt obligated, but I'm glad I did, you know, because I haven't talked to some of you guys in such a long time. And some of you guys missed the Tetris stream, which wasn't really much of a stream. I was just sort of testing the microphone and stuff before the panel that I happened to miss. Ooh. Hey, don't be hitting me. I cannot be of help. I am trash with computers. I majored in computer science in college. Not that I ever finished, but going to bed. Are you going to bed, Pencil? I'm probably going to bed soon too. Or were you remarking like, "Oh God, you're going to bed"? Bungie says, after audio was integrated into motherboards, sound cards now are only marketed to audiophiles. But even I think I prefer outside DACs now. Yeah, I think I would prefer an outside DAC too, because what I found with the sound card is that it does have really great sound
left or right,
in theory.
use the right stick.
But it's in this PCI slot that's just under the graphics card. And so I've got this GeForce 1060, and it's the MSI version with the fans, and the fans are pointed down, and they're blowing directly on the sound card. And I don't know if that's what's causing the recordings from the sound card to not come out great. I don't know. I did buy for this microphone a different cable, one that goes from XLR to a headphone jack that fits the sound card. But it's got like background noise in it too, worse than this one. So I don't know. It didn't look like a cheap cable. It's pretty thick, so I'm thinking maybe it's picking up the noise of the fans, or the heat is getting to it. But either way, if I wanted to use an internal sound card, I think I would need to like water cool the GPU.
We've got a place for you
I mean, I'm yelling at you. Go to bed, Jay. I'm still here. I just woke up. Yeah, you guys are in a different time zone, huh? Mungie says, being a PlayStation person, I never played games that people are always talking about, like Halo, Mario, Zelda, but I also never played any PlayStation exclusives. So I had a PS4, Xbox One, Xbox 360, Nintendo Switch, all of that, you know, because My son, like when I was a kid, we couldn't afford a lot of stuff. We were really poor, and I just wanted him to be able to play whatever game he wanted to play, you know. So even though I really couldn't afford it, slowly one at a time, I got him all of them. But I got really interested in the PS4 because of some of their exclusives. I really enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War and Spider-Man. And I finished Horizon Zero Dawn, and I was almost finished with Spider-Man and really getting into God of War. And then I turned on the PlayStation one day. It makes a loud popping noise, and now it doesn't turn on. I guess the power supply blew, and that really hurt me. But I think I can replace the power supply. I think I can do that. Just have to save up and buy one. You know, while we're here, I just want to say how much I appreciate Comic Drake and Matt Draper and Owen Likes Comics and even Mofi, who was the moderator for most of the stuff that went on today. These guys put on a convention from home in 3 weeks, and I am impressed, man. I am impressed. I highly recommend the Persona series for the PlayStation, says What the Fluff. Once I get it fixed, I'll give it a try. Persona. Surely I've seen some footage of it, something, right? Let's see. I'm gonna make a couple of you guys moderators so that actually I'm just gonna mod all three of you so that I don't have to keep approving your messages here. There we go. And then later on, when I do a stream that's actually during the day, maybe one of you guys will show up and help keep it in order. Bumpied my little Spyro head. Persona is that anime-loving JRPG, right? I'm really not sure, but God, I hope so, because I love JRPGs. Oh, that's right. That's another thing I'm disappointed in because of the PlayStation. I had just played the Final Fantasy VII demo, and I was looking forward to buying the game, the remake. Man, I really wanted to play that. What the heck is this? Yeah, anime looking. That makes sense. That makes more sense, yeah. I'm down with that anime look. You know, sort of like Final Fantasy. It's got that anime look. Pencil says, I don't have a lot of game systems here at my house. We have our old PS2 that still works. I am currently making my way through Kingdom Hearts 1 and a DS, which I played a lot of Pokemon on. You know, I've never really spent a lot of time on Kingdom Hearts or Pokemon. I never got into Pokemon because when I was a kid, I never had a Game Boy. And I never got into Kingdom Hearts, I think, because I just missed out on the first game, didn't know it existed. And then around the PlayStation 2 era, my son was born, and you know, he was too little. I ended up being like a single dad, didn't really have time to play. And then by the time he got old enough, you know, that I could find time to play, well, he wanted to play, right? You know, and so he wanted a Xbox 360, and that's what we had for the longest time, you know. We went through 2 of the, you know, early white systems that red ringed on us, and then I finally got the black slim model, which still works to this day. Thinking of getting a Switch, but with everything happening, I don't want to buy expensive things right now. Oh, I get that. That makes sense. Yeah. Mungie says, I still keep the old PS2 next to the PS4, even though I don't have any cables. It looks, yeah, there's like a stark contrast. Absolutely, yeah. One of them looks truly modern, right? And the other one looks classic. The PS2 always reminded me of like a car amplifier with those weird fins. I think it looks cool. I like the PS4, its design, I think it looks good, but the PS4 Pro, I'm not sure about their decision to make like 3 layers on it. I think maybe it looks a little weird. Instead of adding like a 3rd layer to it, maybe just make it a little thicker would have been a better option in my opinion. I love Kingdom Hearts just because I have Disney worlds and characters. Never been a die-hard fan, but it is so much fun. It looks like fun, you know. It's like an RPG with Disney characters. I could get into that, you know. I just didn't really know about it, and by the time I found out about it, it seemed like I was so far behind, you know. Yeah, I wish I grew up with the Game Boy Color. I wish I still had it. So here's a funny story about me back in the late 90s, working my first job, and got a payday. I had read about a new Game Boy coming out, and I was really, really excited about it. And I went to the store, and I bought the Game Boy Color, and I came home, and I was super duper disappointed in it because the specs I had read were actually for the Game Boy Advance, which had been postponed. And there was very little internet then. The internet existed, but it wasn't like the internet we know. And that information was probably available somewhere, but I didn't see it. And so I got the Game Boy Color expecting something on the level of the Game Boy Advance, you know, and it had the screen in the back that it wasn't backlit, it wasn't even front lit, you know. And
Hi, Spyro.
not that the
You
Game
look
Boy
like you're
Advance
pretty
was
agile.
when it came out
Let's
either.
try putting it to a test.
But
See
I
if
was
you can
so
get up this first
disappointed in
step.
it that I gave
Press
it
the
to my
jump
little
button and hold
cousin,
it down to get
and
more
I
hang
missed
time.
out on the Zelda remake because I never had a Game Boy like
Okay,
the
not
original
bad.
black and white one, and so I ended up missing out on
Nice job.
the
Now, try to
original
do a
Link's
hop.
Awakening. And I believe that I know I got a Zelda game with a Game Boy Color. I believe it must have been the DX remake. And because I was disappointed in the game system. I missed out on playing that game, and that's a great game.
To hover, press the action button during your glide. Very good. Now for the hardest leap of all. You'll have to give this one everything you've got. Get a walking start, jump, glide, and hover just before you get to the edge of the platform. Don't forget to press forward on the left stick.
Still
when
have
you
a Game
hover.
Boy Color, but I lost all the game cartridges, Pencil says. I'd really like to modify a Game Boy Color to have a nice backlit screen. Whoa! Oh, I fell off. Hey, Moneybags.
Hello there, Spyro. Great. Okay. When you jump in the water, you can...
Neat. Unji says, you can help me with a little mystery. My little brother had a Game Boy Advance SP, the folding one, and I bought a few different games for it, but it had hundreds of games built in. The official Game Boy SP never had any built-in games. However, they do make unofficial copies of the SP, and I think what it is it's just like a clone console that looks like a SP, and it's got a bunch of built-in games. There are YouTubers that review some of those. They make one called the GB Boy Color, I think, and they make a SP version of that as well that you can buy. But it's basically emulation. This made me think that Nintendo is the best gaming company out there. It comes with hundreds of games, but I couldn't find any info on it. It doesn't seem to exist. Yeah, because it's Nintendo didn't make it. Those are a lot of those are real Nintendo games, though. Oh, I was supposed to glide. I'm not paying much attention here. But yeah, you can find YouTube reviews of those. Is it GB Boy Color? Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it is GB Boy Color, and it's a it's a clone console that's made to look exactly like a Game Boy Color, and they make an SP version of it. So let me get one of these. Images and see if I can pull it up on screen. There it is. Hang on just a second, and I'll show it to you and see if this is what you're talking about. Do. So this is the original GB Boy Color. This is a clone console, and many of them come with built-in games. They make another one, though, that is made to mimic the SP, and it looks like this. and they have built-in games, real games too. So, um, Pencil says, remember I have a game cartridge that has like hundreds of games on it too. Yeah, those are pretty cool. I was thinking about the same thing. Like, wow, they're so generous. Yeah, too young to understand. Yeah, it was probably a real one since it was 2005. I don't know if they can make a fake one. Well, there is another option that it could have been. It could have been a what do you call it, an EverDrive. So you can take a real Game Boy Advance SP and you can get a cartridge that looks exactly like a game cartridge for the SP, like a Game Boy game, and it's got like a slot in it for an SD card, and you can put like the games, the ROM files on that. Let me show you. Ignore that. There we go. So this is the Crix EverDrive GB, and they make a whole bunch of these for different systems. But basically, you put an SD card full of ROMs in here, stick that in a real Game Boy or a real Game Boy Advance SP or whatever, because they make different ones. They make this one, I believe, plays Game Boy Color and regular Game Boy. They make a Game Boy Advance like cartridge too, and they make them from different companies. But yeah, you put all of the ROM files on an SD card, and then you plug that into the system, and boom, you got hundreds of games. So it could have been that, and that would have been on a real, real Game Boy hardware if that were the case. Mungie says, I don't know if they could make a fake one in 2 years. It was modded in some way. I feel like the quality was too good to be counterfeit. Pencil says, I think my cousin did something like that with the DS he has. Mungie says, maybe it had an SD card slot. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Somewhere. I never noticed the thing. It was in my parents' house somewhere. Yeah, because I mean, it's got to be something like that, right? I mean, it's either really well-made clone hardware, or they have modified the console somehow to have all those hundreds of games, right? Got to be some form of that. But I don't blame people, because a lot of those old games aren't even for sale anymore, and the ones that are for sale are for sale at a ridiculous price. When the Wii first came out, my little brother paid $9.99 for Final Fantasy 1 for the NES on his Wii. That is so much of a ripoff. I mean, come on. $10 just for the right, for the license to play a ROM on a Wii? Come on. Munchie says, that's the puzzling part. It had games, even though the cartridge was blank. Yeah, sounds like a EverDrive, maybe a generic EverDrive, but an EverDrive nonetheless. They made them like before, like they don't all use SD cards. I don't think they had ones that had different types of storage earlier, like Something that's really interesting, and I know this is a bit off topic, is the Dr. 64. Or is that what it is? Hang on just a second. I forget the name exactly. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, it's the Dr. V64. So, this is something from like back. Oh yeah, it's definitely a very gray area. Absolutely. But it's a gray area that I've lived in for a long time. There's a website called the Emulator Zone. It's like emulator-zone.com. You got to put the dash in there. But way back in like 2001, 2002, I was a moderator on the web forums there, helping people get emulators up and running. They didn't allow any talk of ROMs, but people had ROMs. I once paid a guy back in so it's like 2004, 2005, and I had dial-up internet because, we're way back in the middle of nowhere. And it might have even been earlier, 2001, 2002, and we had dial-up internet. And I paid this guy in Canada to send me the complete ROM sets for 14 different consoles: NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, ColecoVision, Atari 2600, etc., etc. There's like 14 of them. And he sent them to me on 2 or 3 DVDs through the mail for like $14. Because I had been downloading them when I wanted to play them, but I couldn't collect them over dial-up, right? But yeah, I paid him to send them to me on disc. That's how I got my first big collection of ROMs. All right, let's see. Browser window. No, not that. Let's see. Oh, hang on. This is a YouTube channel called Modern Vintage Gamer, and it is a channel that I am a huge fan of.
Install Honey on the laptops on the table. Where's inside? Now you might be wondering why he's installing Honey. It's because Honey's dope. Here's how it works. With shipping including, these shoes were almost $68. But after Honey, they were $57.
It is literally free money. Why would you not install it?
So here's how you install Honey. You click here, and then you click.
No free Honey advertisements on this channel, by George. Actually, Honey works. I had to give it to him there, Mr. Beast. Let's try window capture instead. See if I can get some more control. What is the window called? Oh, I closed it. That's fantastic. Okay, history. There it is. Let's see.
On November 21st, 1997, Nintendo of America filed a lawsuit in federal court against Hong Kong-based Bung Enterprises Limited. According to the lawsuit, Nintendo argued that Bung had willfully and directly infringed Nintendo's copyrights and trademarks with the sale of a device known as the Dr. V64, a backup device used to play Nintendo 64 games illegally, and they were seeking damages and an immediate injunction to stop the manufacture and distribution of the product.
That's supposed to work.
Nintendo also argued that the sale of any device that circumvented the Nintendo 64 security measures was illegal. The courts agreed and granted Nintendo's motion, and Bung was ordered to cease all sales of the Dr. V64. Nintendo was also awarded $7 million in damages. Yet the Dr. V64 has made its way into some well-known development houses such as Acclaim, one of
Let's see. Media source? Give me a break here, OBS. Nope. It just shows up as black. Okay. Something's wrong there. I'll just have to get a picture of it. I was going to show you guys a video of the guy using it, but we will have to settle for a picture for now. But if you guys have ever downloaded a Nintendo 64 ROM and it ended in .v64, those were dumped with a very specific machine. And what's really interesting about the machine is that it was built for piracy, even to the point that it came with a CD that had a bunch of ROMs on it, because this was a CD drive that hooked into the N64. And it even came with a bunch of ROM images, and they got sued in America. And the weird thing is that a lot of legitimate developers actually bought this piracy tool and used it to develop real Nintendo 64 games because it was cheaper than the Nintendo dev kit. And even though it was built to dump Nintendo 64 games and burn them to CD and then play them without having had the original cartridge, these guys hooked it to a computer because it also had like a out to the computer a serial port, and they used it to build Nintendo 64 games to sell. You know, that way they could just, like, instead of giving everybody a Nintendo 64 dev kit, they could instead buy a bunch of these Dr. V64 kits and just get one or two of the official dev kits and save a whole bunch of money. And Modern Vintage Gamer has a video about it that you should watch, but this is what the thing looked like. So you can see it attaches to the bottom of the N64 in the same place that the Nintendo 64 DD add-on attached. You know, that was a Japan-only add-on for the system. But it plugged right in the bottom. Isn't that weird? And basically, you could put a cartridge in the top, and it would use the lock, because there's a lockout thing. There's a lockout chip in there. And, like, in the NES, there's a lockout chip in the NES and a lockout chip in the cartridge, and both of them communicate when you first put the thing in. If you've ever had the power light blink on, off, on, off, on, off, that's not that the cartridge is dirty. It might be that it's dirty, and it might be that it's making bad contact, but what it means, though, specifically is that the console can't get a good connection between the two chips, and you can actually go into the NES and disconnect that lockout chip, and it will make most games play, the games that don't specifically check to see if it's disabled, the earlier games, most of the earlier games. But in the 64, they got around that by making those two chips talk to each other constantly, right? So you can't just go in and disable it because it's built into to the same processor mechanism, I think, that makes the whole thing work. But in any case, you can't disconnect it because there's a constant communication back and forth between the lockout chip in the cartridge and the lockout chip that's built into another chip inside the Nintendo 64. So what this thing does is it allows you to plug a cartridge into the top, and it uses that lockout chip to trick the 64 because it's making contact with a chip, right? But then it takes that same cartridge and it dumps it to the CD. So what you'll do is you'll put a cartridge in top, and you'll make a copy of it, and you'll burn it to a CD, and then you don't need the cartridge anymore. Then you can run the game off the CD. But to run a game off the CD, you're going to need some kind of cartridge in the top. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same one. It could be any cartridge, right? But that is how the machine works, and I think it's incredibly interesting. Piracy with J. It is a hard thing to talk about, too, I think, especially with the old games that are no longer on sale, Pencil says. why stop people from experiencing something when they are not affecting the seller or the creator. Yeah, and even if, like, let's say that Squaresoft is making money, Squaresoft and Nintendo's making money by charging somebody $9.99 to play Final Fantasy 1. That doesn't make it fair. You know what I mean? Like, what is legal and what is moral are not always the same thing. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like, but look, I don't mind paying for games. I really don't. I don't mind paying for movies. You give me something on Netflix and I'll pay the $9.99 and watch it. But you put me in a situation where it's not on DVD or Blu-ray at the store, and it's not on any of the streaming services. And if I feel like watching it, I'm going to watch it. That's just kind of how it is. You know what I mean? And I don't like paying $9.99 for it on the Wii. I'd much rather, like right now on the Switch, there's a really crappy selection. But I still think that paying $2 or $3 a month to have access to a whole bunch of games is a much better deal for the consumer. But I can see how it would be difficult for them to get a lot of third-party games too. It is a complicated, gray issue with no easy answers, But I just think that this thing is interesting from a technical standpoint, And, like there was internet when this thing was around, but it was a totally different internet. These guys were advertising this on mailing lists, right? Like email lists. It's amazing to me. I would really like to have one for to start like a collection of old gaming stuff. I'd like to have that. Yeah, we could be here all day. I could talk about this shit for hours, you guys. Originally, when I first started YouTube, what I wanted to do was make a channel about video games. But, number one, at the time, Let's Play channels were crowding YouTube to death, and so you couldn't get ahead in that field. And number two, all of the contacts in the industry, all the YouTube contacts I had were all in the comic book arena, and I do love comic books, so it seemed like the natural choice. But I'm gonna let you guys in on a secret. On the Patreon, I shared an image a long time ago now, a few months ago, because I'm behind schedule with it now. But I never explained what it was. And it was... Well, I'll just tell you about it. We don't have to bring up every single image that I mentioned. It was a little logo that looked like a Pokeball, right? And I didn't explain what it was on Patreon because I was expecting within the next week or so to launch it, but I ended up not doing it because, like I said, my life's been a complete train wreck lately. But it's the logo for my second channel, right? So what I'm going to try to do is move these gaming live streams to a second channel and maybe make some videos there, because I don't know if you guys remember last year I made a video about Beyond Oasis, the video game. And the funny thing is, that was, yeah, I can still branch out, Pencil. Yeah, that's exactly what I plan on doing. I've got a logo for the gaming channel. I've got a theme song that I had commissioned. And I've got that one video. I made that Beyond Oasis video as an April Fool's Day thing. So I thought, like, there's this brand of April Fool's Day joke where you make a really good video, but it's about a topic that doesn't fit your channel at all, right? And that's what I wanted to do. On April 1st, I was going to put out that long video of me talking about playing Beyond Oasis on the Sega Genesis when I was a kid. But I ended up loving that video so much that, thank you, one of my best, wow, thank you. I ended up hanging on to that. It was going to be released on April 1st, and I thought to myself, no, I actually want to present this. Like, I enjoyed this video, enjoyed making it so much that I want to present it as a normal video, not a joke. So I waited like a week after. It's like, a week after April 1st to get good and far away from April 1st so that nobody would recognize it as the April Fool's Day joke that it began as, you know. And it's actually one of my best performing videos for the month. I think maybe it's in 4th place in the last 28 days. So I want to start making content like that for a second channel. You know, but hell, right now I'm having trouble getting enough videos up for the first channel. You know, who knows? But I'm going to do it anyway. It may not be a good idea, but by God, I'm going to do it. Mungie says, basically, you wanted to be a gaming channel, but became a sci-fi channel that only talked about comics. Not that I'm complaining. Rick and Morty is the closest to sci-fi I have experienced. Yeah, well, yeah, that's basically what happened. I was going to make a gaming channel, and I decided gaming was too crowded, and then I tried a few other things. You know, I named the show That Sci-Fi Show, and I did a couple Star Wars videos, and something about the Ninja Turtles TV show, which I don't know if that's sci-fi, but it's close enough. And then Rick and Morty, and then I realized, you know, that I was close enough to people like Scott that they might want to work with me. So I started doing comics, and at first I said something to the effect of, well, comic books are science fiction. I mean, Superman's an alien. Batman has advanced technology. You know, it's okay to do a few comic book videos, and then a few more, and then I did a few more, and then eventually I just sort of quietly dropped the That Sci-Fi Show branding and just went for the full comic book branding. You know, so I think what I'd like to do is leave this channel as a comic book channel and just keep doing the same thing I've always done, and also make these, you know, video game ones, because I like Rick and Morty, and I like Star Wars, and I like Star Trek, you know, but those aren't really the videos that really make me happy, right? The videos that I really, truly enjoy are really philosophy videos. And I know that sounds weird because some of those Star Trek videos are philosophy videos, but it's not really the Star Trek part that really gets me going, right? It's the, like, is Data a real human being? That's interesting to me. You know, or when it comes to comic books, if you want to get less, like, less philosophical, I really like alternate realities. Like, what if Superman was a communist? You know what I mean? Or what if Wonder Woman was evil? You know what I mean? Like, I like that kind of stuff. So I think it's time to branch out, and maybe being able to focus more on what's interesting to me rather than having to try and stick to one specific topic will allow me to make more videos. You know, maybe squeezing out another 2 or 3 comic book videos will be easy if I know that I can also make one about a video game every now and then, you know. But even though it's a comic book channel, I'm never going to stop talking about Star Trek, you know what I mean? So, but I think what I can do is that I can bring up the Star Trek comics when I cover those topics, at least for a little bit, and that'll make it fit in well enough. So I'll have 2 channels. One will be a comic book channel. One will be a gaming channel. And the comic book channel will occasionally talk about philosophy and Star Trek, but it is what it is. And maybe eventually that can spin off into its own channel, and there will be like a sci-fi, comic, and gaming. But by then I'd have to have like a staff to keep going. Mr. What the Fluff's down for it. Pencil says go for it. Mungie says you don't really need to make a second channel. Look at Matt. He makes all sorts of videos. Mungie says, what if Batman and Superman's mom had the same name? What if they had the same name? Let's ask Zack Snyder. I think he would know. I really appreciate the support, you guys. all of you guys. Sometimes I wonder what the hell I did to be this lucky to, you know what I mean? Like, to put out a video to say, here's my thoughts on the Joker and the concept of nihilism. Here's, I read this book and I thought it was interesting, and here are the parts that jumped out to me. And have 18,000 people watch that and be like, I'll watch this video. That's amazing. That's amazing. And if I never do any better, if I never grow any bigger, if that is the extent of what I did on YouTube, if that's the most successful thing, I can live with that. I could be proud of that, I mean, I'm still going to make stuff because I enjoy making the stuff. It doesn't have to set the world on fire to be worth making or worth watching, But even if that is my most popular video and I've peaked, I'm happy with that, But I think I can do better, because, like, take, for example, the video that I did for Comic Drake, right? I make a video about Deadpool, and Drake and Orem were very helpful, especially with, like, oh, cut this part, or maybe don't ramble so far here, that sort of thing, like basic advice. They were really very helpful, like maybe the drop shadows are too thick, stuff like that. They were very helpful. But in the end, I wrote a video, and I performed it, and I edited it, and I did all the animations, and 260,000 people watched it. You know what I mean? And I think that goes to show that if my channel put out videos regularly, like Drake does, and if I did that long enough to build up a subscriber base over 100,000, 200,000, like Drake has put in the years of work to do, that I could do that too, And I see no reason why not, I got into this because back in 2013, before I ever made a video, I said to Scott Nicewonder on Twitter, I might like to make a video one day. And he was like, so do it. Why not, right? Like, even if you're bad at it, you'll get better. And that was some damn good advice is what that was. And I think I just need to still be taking that advice now. I'm ready to go back to making stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I've had the worst year of my life. Dad's gone and he's never coming back. And, it's time, right? It's time to move on and stop wallowing in it, as mean as that might sound. And I think I would have been able to do that a lot easier if we had gotten along. So I know I'm getting really personal now, but if my dad and I had had a better relationship, I think I would have been able to get over his death a lot faster, right? Because I don't think that's what he wants. He doesn't want me to just sit around and mope forever. But it wasn't just that. It was a whole bunch of stuff that hit all at the same time. Let's see. Pencil says, just like Mungie said, you can just put it all on this channel. It might have a little period for a viewer to get used to it, but after that, bam, it would be great. Let's see. Mungie says, YouTube's algorithm is very mysterious. For a year, I thought Scott's Mjolnir video he made around the time of the first Thor movie would remain his most viewed video and be his first to get to 1 million views. Then right before it did, this Sabretooth Logan video suddenly came out and blew up, and because his most viewed video and got 1 million views. I don't know what it is now. Pencil says, thank you for sharing this. I have a project I have wanted to do, and now I just have to go for it. Yeah, you just got to do it. Look, my first video on YouTube was terrible. It was bad, you know. It's not up anymore, but it was bad. And Scott encouraged me to make it. So imagine, like, you make a video and, like, you show it to a guy who makes videos for a living, and he leaves a comment, right? And he's like, hey, you did pretty good. I wish I was that good when I first started out. You'll get better, you know? And you're like, holy shit, right? Like, that was super nice of him to do, you know? And, I don't know where I'm going with that except to say that it's super nice of him to do that. Like, really super nice, right? But, you just got to do it because that video sucked. But the next video was a little better. And the next one was a little better. And the next one was a little better. And you know what? My videos aren't perfect. They still got a ways to go. But I like them. I'm proud of them. And you'll be all right, right? You'll get better. Whatever your project is, do it, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. As long as you enjoy doing it, keep doing it. And eventually, you'll do it well. Mr. What the Fluff says, yeah, I have a planned project for myself next year. Yeah, there you go. Mungie says, it's not up anymore. Stop scrolling. Pencil says, all of us need encouragement sometimes. Amen to that. To spark our journey. That is true. So, I know this went from playing Spyro to getting all, I don't know. Is it preachy or is it... I got a little emotional there in the middle, in the middle somewhere. Maybe it was a little rambly. Mungie says, I'm scrolling... In scrolling, I realized that you updated all of your thumbnails. Yeah, I did. I updated every one of them. Boy, was it a pain. Some of them still need some work, but at least they all match. I noticed that updating all the thumbnails changed which videos get more clicks, so that's interesting, you know. But thumbnails is just like videos. You got to keep making them over and over and over. This is the third version of my thumbnails, and they got a little better each time, I think. But the funny thing about thumbnails is that sometimes you just gotta like refresh them because they can be really, really good and still stop performing because people become blind to them, you know. But anyway, if I had to end this on a point, it would be to, number one, try, right? Like, make things. Fail at making things. Make bad things. Because that's how you get good. And number two, be the encouragement that other people need. You know what I mean? Like, let's say that you start your project, and your project's probably something different, but let's pretend it's a YouTube channel. And you get 100 subscribers, there's going to be somebody out there that's got 50 subscribers that even though your channel's small, you're twice as far as they are. And they may need to hear from somebody, hey, that looks pretty good, you know. So, you know, be Scott. Drake does that a lot too, Mungie says, and yes, he does. Scott doesn't, probably because he doesn't like his older videos, even though we do. Yeah, Scott doesn't care for his own older videos. I don't care for my own older videos. But it is what it is, right? We move on and we get better. But make things if you enjoy making things. And if you enjoy making things, point out the things that other people make and tell them what you like about it. You know, give them the old compliment sandwich, right? Tell them what you like about it, then tell them what could be better. Then tell them what you like about it, right? That way it's constructive, right? Encourage somebody. So I'm going to go, though. It is almost 1:30 in the morning, and this stream that I said was going to be short is going on an hour and 37 minutes. We've talked about everything from counterfeit Game Boys to how to get ROMs to play in a regular Game Boy to how to be a YouTube guy. And we've also played some Spyro. That is a weird stream. But I really appreciate you guys sticking with me through it. Every time I have a stream with you guys, it puts me in a good mood. And I really need to do it more often. And I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you guys for being there for me. Thank you for watching the videos. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for showing up when the notification goes out. And I really appreciate it. It's 10 a.m. where Mungie's at. You have slept yet or you haven't slept yet? Your schedule is messed up. I assume that means you haven't slept yet, right? You've been up all night? Well, I know how that feels. For sure. It was good. Till next time, stay healthy. That's good advice. Stay healthy. If anyone feels inclined to do so, the Tiltify link to donate to At Home Comic Con is still up, and you can read more information about the donations and what they do at fancyteeth.org/AHCC. Links are in the description. If you can't donate, that's okay. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. I could only give $4, right? But we did a good thing, and it went really well, and I can't wait to do it again next year with the convention. So, good night, everybody. I will see you next time. Be kind to each other.